Thank you, Tom, and good morning, everybody. My friend Peter back there, can you put my first slide on? This is an example of lifelong learning because I put this PowerPoint together myself, which might not seem meaningful to a lot of you out there, but the nuns used to say to us, every day choose an opportunity to grow your humility. So here we go. I'm delighted to be able to spend some time with people with wonderful ideas and on this fabulous initiative. And it's a real opportunity to get an advance on making the most of an anniversary, because an anniversary is a time to celebrate, but it's a time also to reflect and to reform. And so I'm delighted to have the opportunity to float by you just a rethinking of the concept of community. So that's my contribution this morning to, in the year 2017, and coming up to it, and hopefully coming out of it, that we will have an opportunity to revision what community means. Now, I started a youth choir here some 20 years ago. And as Tom has said, we have many goals, but the primary goal is to produce healthy, happy citizens who will be contributors and, as he said, agents of change. So our little ones arrive at age 6 or 7, and they come in and they understand community as a noun. And they leave around 17 or 18. And if by that time they have not come to understand and have experienced community as a verb, we will have failed them. Because community is a series of actions of will and skill. We are all born, Jerome Bruner, the famous psychologist, says we're all born to a play in process. And we spend our lives trying to figure out who that character is and what the plot is and what our part in that plot may be. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a whole series of communities of belonging that we Ainsley, for instance, was talking about different kinds of communities, and we belong to many, many communities. And to be conscious of that. And I see our country as a community of communities. And when my girls were little, because we're Newfoundlanders, and it's not so easy to just get in the car and drive anywhere, we're insular, but it was important to me for them to understand what it was to be Canadian and what Canada was. You get out of bed in Newfoundland, you know who you are. You're a Newfoundlander. But you have to work a little bit at knowing, less so now, but my kids are now 36 and 40. And I used to say, think of our country as a salad. And in our country, it's so special that if you're a cucumber, you can get to keep being a cucumber or a tomato or a mushroom. And all together, that creates a salad, which is a greater thing. But there are some special elements that are the dressing that really bring the salad into its uniqueness. And they are the CBC, they are Via Rail. I'm not just saying that because they're sponsors, but they are the vehicles by which we can connect and overlap and collaborate with each other. And most importantly, they are the ways that we tell and hear each other's stories. And in doing that, it lends proximity. When you hear somebody's story, it makes the strange familiar, really, really important. And you have a chance to revision the we, they. I always remember my parents' bridge scorecards. The we, they can change into an usness. And it really helps to value and recognize other cultures. And I think that's what's unique and absolutely fabulous about Canada. I thought I would be able to see my slides really well. Maybe I could do that. No, I can't do that because of the microphones. Oh, see? Lifelong learning and humility is growing because there's a monitor right here. Why was I not informed? That's what my husband always says about everything. So every community has its own culture. And that culture is formed either intentionally by design or it just happens by default. And it is the members who decide what that's going to be. And the kind of community that I'm looking at reflecting about and hopefully growing in this opportunity that we have is an open and inclusive and self-renewing community. One in which people can belong, be involved, have a voice, have a role, mentor and be mentored, partner, contribute, shape, reach, evaluate, innovate, sustain, renew, so that in each of your communities you can bond within and strengthen each other, but also bridge beyond. Because as much as a community can be open and inclusive, it can be an instrument for exclusivity. So with this kind of community, we have an opportunity to address needs. And when I was teaching elementary school, which I loved and did for a long time, I used to talk about the critical illities. And I would talk about these with 5-year-olds who are perfectly capable of understanding that if it is presented in a certain way. And so there's civility, there's creativity, there's responsibility, there's accountability, there's sustainability, which of course has become so much more important since I began teaching elementary school. And they all lead to possibility, and it is in that kind of a community that these things can really grow. And these kinds of communities foster enrichment, discovery, transformation, and they help us to endow, because that's our job. We're living in our lives and enjoying our lives and contributing in our lives, but ultimately, we want to leave it better than we left it for the generations that are coming. So every day, you have an opportunity to increase your endowment to this country. It's really important, too, that communities link and co-inform by connecting with each other, by intersecting, by collaborating. And I'll just talk about 3 sectors where I think this kind of community is helped. If you think of education, and you think of K-12, but you think particularly of primary and elementary school, every class is an empathic community. And every member of that class is a builder of that community and conscious of their capacity as builders. The teacher is a facilitator, of course, but every member is a builder. And in that setting, you're free to fail, which is the most important thing in school because we learn in groups. You're free to fail. You're free to excel. It's really hard to try and excel in junior high school. A lot of people pretend they aren't smart just to fit in. You're free to question. You're free to risk. You're free to encourage others. You're free to support. You're free to partner and celebrate and change. In this kind of a community, with every classroom a community and every school a greater community, it isn't about zero tolerance for bullying. That's a non-issue. And I have built communities like that with friends and colleagues and people who are 5, 6, and 7 years old. And I know it can happen. But I think we need to, again, start that conversation. With regard to culture, I forgot to put this on, didn't I? Yes. Okay. Here we are, culture. So you can make a PowerPoint, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can deliver one. But community engagement in culture is a terrific opportunity, and we've become consumers of culture in so much of our country, where you buy the culture, but you don't get to do it anymore. Now we're very lucky here in Newfoundland because we do get to make and remake our culture every day. But there is a growing movement. The Canada Council for the Arts has a pillar of public engagement. Our university has a pillar of public engagement, as does our provincial government. And this means that people can dig in and participate and express themselves, discover, enrich, realize, contribute, etc. And I go even to the great problems that our society and the world faces. And I really encourage the overlapping and intersection of communities with regard to disciplines that are normally living in silos, but that can work together to co-investigate. And so engineering is working with the humanities, etc. Innovative new ways to ask questions and to frame problems and to seek solutions. So isn't it interesting? Change. We've come a long way from 1867, and we're really not on our way to 2017, when we're on our way to 2067. But there will be changes needed, and change is the most inevitable thing in life and the most resisted. And it's really important to know what to change and what to keep. And I find that in community, that difference can be arrived at. So I'm not going to read all these things. It's just a review of what we have been talking about. But 2017 starts now. And for the rest of the country who may see this, I'll share with you the Memorial University motto, which was founded in 1925. And it is Provehito in altum, which means launch forth into the deep, which is what we are doing. We are launching forth. And our word mark is become. It's a challenge. And so I envisage 2017 as a time when we can all become and then keep becoming new and renewed Canadians every day of our life. Thank you.
Having never done a PowerPoint, I thought that was fantastic.
Try?
Yeah, no, I'm not. No, I can do the channel changer, not that thing. Susan, you mentioned a line early on. I thought that was interesting. You mentioned community of communities,
yes,
which I think Joe Clark once referred to Canada as back in the 1970s.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I wonder, in that context, what's the biggest challenge we're facing to bring so many different communities together to essentially buy into the idea of a big celebration like this?
Well, I think this offers an opportunity for fora, all kinds of fora. I think it also, with media help, it can, as I say, start these conversations. But when you look at the big problems, our Aboriginal peoples, any way we can intersect with our Aboriginal peoples in areas where people need to know each other, people need to be with each other. So all kinds of exchanges, physical exchanges, media exchanges, Skyping, all of that sort of thing, where people can come together and understand each other's stories. That's the big thing. And the sustainability question, without doubt, is huge, affects all of us. So I think it's an opportunity to talk to each other, listen to each other in new ways, with new structures, with lots of support from institutions. And it's never done, Tom. It's never done. It's a process of every morning becoming anew. And what can happen is to really infect people with the will to change for the better. Mm-hmm. And that's 2017 could certainly do that. And one of the best ways it could do it probably would be with a song that would really catch on.
You looking at me?
The creation of a song.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thanks, Susan.
Welcome.
Susan Knight from Moore University Chancellor, thanks.